the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Ready.
AV Week.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AV Week. AV Week. Go.
Hey. All right, let's do that again.
Okay.
I haven't wore a shirt. You notice that?
And I wear pants.
I'm wearing shorts. Shorts and flip-flops. All right, cool. 3, 2, 1. Hey, this is Matt, and you are with us live for ResiWeek. This is the residential version of AVNation's AV Week. And I've got my good friend Tim Albright with me today because no one else likes me.
Nobody else likes you.
Who's that? We've gone through our Rolodex of people that sort of like me, and they all said no. So yeah, it's just the two of us.
I like
but it's going to be a good.
Why I'm here.
I know, and I pay you for that, but it's not that expensive. It's worth it. But anyways, we're going to talk about a couple of things that are, really making some news this week in the residential market, and we're going to kick it off with something that I saw come across my Twitter feed early this morning, and proceeded to retweet it out. And it's a really interesting thing. I'm going to bring it up for us right here. There we go. It is showing that Panasonic, as reported by Reuters, is going to stop making TVs. This will leave Sharp as the last sole Japanese TV manufacturer. This is a bit of a big deal, but not overly surprising, as we know they've had some troubles being profitable the last couple of years. And the biggest thing that got me was this little line right here in the article where it says that their main production plant, which started production in 2010, has not logged a profit. Tim, what does this mean as a whole? What does this mean for Panasonic? What does this mean for residential integrators who used to love Panasonic panels?
It's a sad day. I mean, I remember, what was it, 5 years ago, Pioneer was one of the first ones to drop off. And Pioneer and Panasonic were kind of neck and neck for a couple of years back in the plasma days, right? When it was the blackest blacks, it was the deepest colors. And then suddenly, Pioneer's like, yeah, see you guys, we're out of here. And now you look at that Panasonic's getting out, and it's one less line for folks like you and our residential guys that do this to offer their clients. Now, some people will argue that, well, folks are getting their stuff from Best Buy and from Amazon anyway. There are arguments there, right? And there are reasons to spec commercial displays for residential homes. There's longevity, there's quality, there's control, which is my favorite subject. So I think it sucks for the residential, and I think it sucks for the home market because it's one less player, to offer.
Now, where I find it to be a little interesting in the article in general, they state further down, kind of below the fold, that some of the panels that Panasonic's currently selling are using panels. So essentially, the TVs they're selling are using panels from LG, one of their rivals.
So they're OEMing those.
Yeah, so they're OEMing those. So this is where this article is a little confusing, because it also mentioned at the top that Sharp's its competitor. Yet Sharp no longer makes displays. They've sold that name to Hisense, which is, I believe, a Chinese manufacturer. So
no, they just sell the name. I mean, they sold everything to Foxconn.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So they don't technically, Sharp as we know it doesn't exist in the display market as far as a single piece display. So I'm curious to see down the road if this will be sort of the same deal with Panasonic, if they're going to keep OEMing things under the Panasonic brand using different components, or if they're going to completely be out of, if that Panasonic line is going to disappear completely, because the article isn't really clear on that.
Yeah, the other thing I'm be curious about is what this does to Japan as a technology haven, right? This was I could be wrong about this, but this was the last Japanese display manufacturer of any significance, right? Yep. With the sale of Sharp, that took a Japanese name and Japanese company and put it in the hands of Hisense / Foxconn. And there was a lot of hoo-ha made about that sale because the Japanese government actually tried to buy Sharp to save a Japanese company, right? And there's a lot of pride and honor in the Japanese business culture. This one, it doesn't even seem like anybody tried to save this line. Now, the difference between Sharp and Panasonic is Panasonic's not going away, right? Nobody's selling Panasonic. Panasonic is just saying, hey, we're no longer doing displays. Sharp was, we're going bankrupt, we're going under, somebody's got to buy us. But
is this not even more so just I guess the corporate manufacturing world taking notice to something that we as integrators have known for a long time, that there's no money in displays. We don't care about the theater room. We don't care about everything else in terms of the display. We care about everything else that goes into that room. Sorry, I said that a little backwards or convoluted. We care about what goes into that theater room. We could care less what you're using to watch the content that we're throwing up there.
But why is that? Because yes, there are people that say, without good audio, you don't have good video, and I would agree with that. You've got stuff like Dolby Atmos, which is 3D, right? It's not even surround sound; it's 3D sound. But you gotta have a good picture, don't you?
You do, and I don't think it's that we're saying that we don't care about the picture. I think it's we don't care about that device. It's become so commoditized, so inconsequential in the realm of the entire product that, like, I know when I do it and when we're designing systems, we care about the display and we care about the quality and everything else, but for whatever reason the client will take all of our advice on speakers, processors, cables, interconnects, control, but when it comes to the display, they care about whatever they've read online or whatever they saw at Best Buy or Costco or Sam's Club or whatever big box store there is. They just don't seem to care about A, our opinion, and B, whether we can source that product for them or not. Like really? It's a
getting
really,
it from you has no consequence at all.
Not at all. No, and there's ways that we as integrators usually will try to combat that so that we're not price matching a Black Friday or a Boxing Day up in Canada sales event. But the bottom line is, like, we just did a really small one for a client of ours. The budget was under $5,000 for this little entertainment space for their sons, and I was shocked because we actually sold not a flagship but a mid-high range Samsung 60-inch display. It shocked me that we could sell that because we sell those panels at retail. We don't discount those. We sell them at retail, and if you don't want it, then go buy it wherever the heck you want to buy it. And then when there's a problem, it's not ours.
Yeah.
It allows us to wipe our hands. But traditionally, panels just don't seem to matter. It's an interesting,
which may be why Panasonic's getting out of the business.
Well, and that's the thing is, this is, like, I hate to say it, but when Sharp went out, it wasn't shocking, especially from a Resi standpoint. We kind of expected that because there was no way, when everybody else was selling and making panels in that size landscape that they were, when they were selling those at half the price of everybody else, you kind of had to look at that and go, okay, something's wrong with this business model. There's no way in this global economy that they can sell those panels at that price and still make a profit.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, we realized that they couldn't because they had to sell it because they went bankrupt, for lack of a better term on it. But this is Panasonic. Again, this isn't Pioneer, who had a smaller distribution chain and a smaller company as a whole. This is Panasonic. They are one of the
but a better product altogether.
Oh yeah, a better product altogether, a better channel, I'm not going to say they own pro video, but they're one of the major players in pro and production video. This is a big deal, and I'm a little surprised at how little notice this is got across the industry so far today.
Now, the one thing it doesn't mention is what Panasonic is doing with their projector line, right?
Right.
A couple of years ago, people may or may not remember this, the fact that they purchased Sanyo, right? Mm-hmm. Which in the education market where I came from, Sanyo was Sanyo and Epson for a long time. Yep. Sony had a little bit in there. Panasonic had a little bit in there. Iki, or Ike, depends on how you say it.
I've heard it both ways.
Both ways. But Sanyo was a huge one. And then Panasonic went and purchased them up. So it doesn't say what they're doing with the projector.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't expect a lot of change to happen there. But who knows? I can honestly say I never thought I'd see Panasonic as a display manufacturer stop making displays. It's unexpected. All right, so let's move on from that one, because otherwise we'll talk about that the whole show. We're going to welcome in our good friend Steven, who is late to the party. But he's late to the party with us. So we will kick off this next story, and I will throw it to Steven. Legrand, who has kind of been on a purchasing run as of late, just announced, or I'm just trying to get this screen share up to work, they have announced that they are doing a cash rewards program for dealers on the new NVO line. This comes to us from our friends over at Resi Systems. This is one of those fun little things. Do dealers care if they get an incentive, a cash incentive? I know we just started a promotion from another multi-room audio company that, I don't know. We're running it. I'll see how it goes. But this is one where they've launched this new incentive program. If you register with them, you get rebates towards in-ceiling and in-wall speakers via a reloadable Visa debit card. Steven, is this something that appeals to you? Is this something that you guys would take advantage of?
Well, I don't know. The thing is as a business owner, you want the best deal that you can get. If there's a rebate, you want the rebate. If there's a better price, you want a better price. I don't believe in beating up your distributors over price. I mean, basically, if you're beating up the people selling you product, it's because you're not selling it properly to your client. So,
yeah, does this necessarily require you to beat up your, this is coming from the manufacturer. They're offering you cash money to sell their product.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing that they're giving you cash money to sell the product, but it's, I don't know. So several companies do this, and it hasn't made me want to sell those companies' products any more or less. Sony does it, LG does it, Origin does it to an extent. There's a lot of companies that do this. So what I say is, if the company wants to pay me to give me money to sell their product, basically that just decreases my cost of the product. So
yes,
I don't. What worries me is when companies say that it's a promotional thing. So you get in and you get started. See, with LG and Sony and other brands, it's permanent. You buy so much and you get a discount. You buy a little more, you get a deeper discount. With LG and Sony, you get your reward right then. It comes right off the price of the product. You don't have to wait on a return. And also with LG, there are spiffs a lot of people don't know about, where if you sell certain TVs of theirs, they will send you a debit card. They will load a prepaid card for you with hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these TVs. So it's nice. It's always a nice thing. And I think it'll help people make money. But if it's a temporary thing, that to me sounds like, oh, start selling our speakers, make it part of your company, and then we're going to up the price X amount of % on you in a year when this program ends. I would rather it be something more permanent than to be promotional.
Now, does it matter, Tim, if this is something to kind of expose dealers to the line if they haven't seen this before, if they're not currently a NVO dealer or currently selling NVO speakers? Is this an effective way of getting or encouraging dealers to get their foot in the door and try these speakers out?
Well, I think it is, but to Stephen's point, you start out with the price at a certain point, right? And he mentioned the fact that it's temporary.
Yeah.
So you go down the design part, right? And if you have a system you're putting in, you're working with a builder, you're working with a homeowner, and your timeline is maybe it's 6 months to a year, right? You're just in the architectural phases. In a year, will that price be here? Who knows, right? So you can't exactly go in unless you guys start speccing it and say, you know what, I'm just going to price this based on list and not worry about the rebate, and if I get it, cool. If I don't, but I'm always a little bit wary anytime somebody does a temporary, hey, here's some cash back to try our product. I have no problem, giving you guys demo gear, right? Ship the speakers to you guys, put them in, right? What do they sound like? Are they decent? Are they worth you guys putting into your systems? And if they're not, I don't think that any amount of rebate on the market is going to get you guys to put in bad speakers just because you're getting some money back.
I think you'd be.
Well, I would like to, Tim. I agree with almost everything you said until you got to that very last part, because I can tell you there are some terrible speakers on the market that people are putting in because they're cheap.
How many times? Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I had this conversation with a security integrator that has been working on a project that we're also working on, and he's expanding into Resi, and we keep having these discussions because he always wants to know what we're selling, what we as Omega are selling and putting in, and every time I have that conversation and tell him ballpark what retail is on them, he just laughs and he's like, oh, you should see these ones. I got these ones that are from this knockoff Chinese company, and they're great, and I can get in and out of the door for next to nothing, and my clients love me. And every time that conversation comes up, I always hit him back with and that's fantastic, because you do that, and then I don't know, 6 months, a year down the road, when those speakers blow or die or just disintegrate, I get a call from your client who's pissed off at you, and then kind of pissed off at me because he thinks the whole industry is as dumb as you, selling him some crap that isn't going to last.
Yeah, I had that conversation.
That's what I was going to ask both of you. I mean, yes, there are folks who put junky speakers in, but how many times do they get rehired, right?
Oh, never. No, hold on. It depends on the clientele, and I think that's becoming a big differentiating factor anymore. There's so much turmoil in North America, just in general. There are a lot of clients who kind of want the world and can't pay for any part of it, and they're willing to buy something cheap as long as it's cheap, and they'll pay for it 3 or 4 times. Now, those are not my clients as a rule. Stephen, I know kind of your demo and your clientele. They're not your clients either. But there are. I think we'd be very surprised at how many people are okay with inferior sounding stuff with questionable installs, because, to be honest, they don't know any better.
Totally agree. What we run into constantly is, well, my friend can do this, or I know a guy that can do this, and he can get it for this price, and why is this guy telling me it's $1,000 and you're telling me it's $3,000? And we see it all the time. It's becoming more and more prevalent, not just in the audio side, but also in the CCTV, the surveillance side.
Yep.
People go to Sam's Club, Walmart, whatever, and they see these cameras, and they're like, oh, I just saw 8 cameras and a DVR for $400. Why are you charging me? I just quoted the system, 16 IP camera, 3 megapixel system. Everything installed, everything was about $8,000. And the client came to me and said, I want really nice stuff. This is the kind of image quality I want. We walked the premises. I came back with the price, and he's going to do the project, but the first thing he said was, man, I swear I just read online where I could get 16 cameras and a DVR for like $2,000, and I had to have that conversation. So,
and you don't even have to deal with snow.
Yeah, and exactly. Well, no, we don't, thank goodness. What's every 2 or 3 years, and it shuts the whole state down. But here's the thing. Back to the original conversation about products. Tim actually hit the nail on the head when he said, when we introduce a new product, it's a 6-month cycle minimum. I pick up a new product line. I just did this recently. I'm switching from a speaker line over to almost exclusively doing Origin acoustics. And the problem is I've got 2 very large 6-figure projects that we're working on. Both of those projects were already spec'd in this other speaker line. So the guys at Origin are like, hey, we're waiting on these big orders. And I told them, hey, guys, you caught me right in between. So we're doing some small orders, but to pick up a speaker line, that's something the client sees all the time. So no, a cheap price is not going to do it for me. If I need reputation, I need sound quality. Yeah, a good discount is great. I'm not going to argue with a good price, but goodness gracious, man, don't tell me that this is good for 6 months or it's good for a year and then expect me to pick up your speaker line. That's just not a long enough life cycle.
Yeah, very good, very good. Moving on. We've got a report or an article from AV Network talking about AES, and they're holding their first international conference on audio for virtual reality. Now, we know AES, our good friend Bradford Ben, is one of their teachers, professors, however you want to call it.
Professor. He's Bradford. Call him a professor.
Oh, don't call him a professor. We'll never hear the end of it. He doesn't watch the Resi show. It's okay.
That's true.
But anyways, they are, as I stated, they're going to be doing their conference on audio for VR. Is this something that matters to us in the Resi world? Is this something that we should care about when it comes to virtual reality? Is this something that residential integrators are actually seeing or getting any interest in? Tim, I know you're not really integrating, but what's your take on that? Do you see any value for this for VR and AR in the residential space as a whole?
Actually, I think I see a bigger space for VR in residential, more so than commercial.
Really?
Just because you look at the use case. You're not going to see corporate America putting on virtual reality glasses or VR headsets, not anytime soon. Some instances in education, but they're very specific and localized. In the home, though, you have things like virtual reality gaming. You have virtual reality movies and augmented reality shows where people are producing content that, if you look at it one way, is providing you one form of entertainment, and you put on a VR headset and it's giving you a totally different experience. That right there is what's kind of exciting to me for VR. And the AES stepping in and saying, okay, let's start putting together some standards. I mentioned in the first story, lots of smart people have said you don't have good video without good audio. Same thing with VR. And that's why I kind of like the fact that AES is stepping up and saying, hey, let's put together some standards, let's put together some guidelines on while you guys are creating this really great groovy content, let's keep in mind that the audio has to maintain a certain level as well.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, are you getting any interest from your clients in this realm?
No, not even as. No one's even mentioned it. But the reason why I think it's important to Resi guys more so than commercial guys is because we need to be that guy. We need to be the expert on technology. If you're in your client's home and they come to you and they say, hey, what do you know about this new virtual reality stuff? And you go, I don't know anything about it. Now you're no longer the technology expert. And that's something that I've said in several shows. I'll say it again, is we pride ourselves on being the most educated company that most of our clients have access to. And that's huge. When your client calls you and they say, I'm looking to buy a clock radio. Which brand should I get? That's when you know you've hit it out of the park. You know, these clients, they trust you.
Sony.
they trust you. They come to you. So I'm not getting any requests for actual usage of it, but I'm keeping up with it because when the day comes and a client comes to me and says, hey, my kid asked for VR for Christmas, what do you know about it? And I can answer that question. I maintain my title as the technology expert as opposed to having to defer to Google or something or saying I don't know. One thing I am concerned is I'm really concerned that VR is going to I think that VR will do more to hurt dedicated theater sales than the economy crashing did.
Wow.
I think that, yeah, here's the thing. If you can spend, you know, $400 a headset or $600 a headset on a VR and have all 6 of you be able to watch it, now you're $3,600 into something that is not only widescreen to your viewing, but now you're throwing in a different level of entertainment. I think that it could do a lot of damage to the home theater, to the dedicated theater, and that's what I'm concerned about because it's a different kind of experience. But people love their mobile devices. They love being able to pop in. They love being able to do that. So it's up to us to let the client know, yeah, the audio is great. It's still in stereo. You know, yeah, it sounds great. It's in stereo. The picture is really big, but there's a whole other experience to using a theater. But that is my biggest concern, is that being able to strap on a headset for $400 to $600, and I think the price will come down substantially over the next 2 years, just like OLED has. But if you can strap on a headset for $400 to $600 and watch something in VR or AR, that deters that same client from saying, you know what, I need a 133-inch screen so that I can really enjoy this movie. Well, if I take a 7-inch screen and put it 6 inches from my face, now it looks like a 130-inch screen. And that is my biggest concern.
Well, and I think some of that will depend on what content becomes available and how it becomes available, just like, you know, any other new technology that comes out is. It's always, you know, reliant upon content being available. But no, that's a really interesting take on VR.
Right. And I'm also I would go one step further than that, Stephen. Is the VR and the AR part, the augmented reality part, I think is what's going to kill. Is what's really going to set the these headsets apart. It's not just the fact that yes, I can have a big screen TV, 6 inches, you know, in the size of a current cell phone. It's the fact that this content can be created and augmented to where I am physically. You know, you can geolocate. There's a audiobook out there that it's called Metatropolis, and it's several stories. One of those stories is surrounding this whole idea of augmented reality, and it's a game of it's this game where people they're walking around, and as they're walking around in this world, in the real world, the virtual world is being served up to them through these glasses. And yes, they still see you. Yes, they still interact with you, but it's what's being served up to them, and it's how they view the world. And I think that really is kind of where this technology is headed, both with geolocating and the ability to serve up different types of content to people based on where they are and what they're doing.
Well, and I'm trying to remember where it was I saw it, but I saw a promo for how is essentially a use case for how you could use AR while watching, you know, football or baseball or you know, one of the sporting events, and you know, it showed two guys in a living room watching on a screen, but then also having all this other ancillary information coming up while they're watching the screen. Well, when they look up and they, you know, reach out to tap on a wide receiver, all his stats come up. And you know, you look at that application, and yes, that's
football.
Oh my gosh,
Oh my
and
gosh.
that is still you know, probably a year or two out from being practical and available, and you know, again, having that backbone to support that kind of network streaming. But yeah, you look at that fantasy football industry, that model, and add that level of sophistication and information to it, how many guys pay how much money every month or every week to play fantasy football and bet on it and do everything else that they're doing on it? These are all the same guys that will be standing in line to get a headset and pay for that content from NFL Mobile or whoever it is that's serving it up. And I think that will dramatically change that. Actually, it won't even change it. It'll just give us a whole new kind of market segment there. But it's going to be very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch.
I think that the VR and AR technology has its best use in engineering and medical fields. I'm not super excited about it in the home, and just purely because you're strapping yourself, basically you're putting this on, you're strapping yourself into an environment where you're separated from the world. But I have seen the applications in the medical field where doctors are able to go in and do microscopic surgeries because they have these goggles on and do even nerve ending repair and things like that. So there are some definite things, and engineers being able to put buildings together and determine whether or not they're structurally sound through the program. And I mean, there's things that you can do with it, but I am concerned. I'm concerned about people strapping themselves into this alternate world. It's
that's
crazy.
Facebook. Yeah, no, and again, it's a valid point. It's going to, no matter what the future holds for AR or VR, it's definitely going to bring another change to the marketplace. But again, look at Google Glass. That was touted as the new, reality of having some form of AR on you, and it failed really, really fast. So this will be interesting to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. But that is all the time we have for ResiWeek this week. I'm hoping I'm not too over, but that's what editors are for. It'll be fun. So thanks for joining us, Stephen. It was great to have you. Where can people find you?
ProAudio_GA on Twitter. They can find me at proaudiogeorgia.com. You can basically find me anywhere. Just Google me, Stephen Bronner. Just like my man John Siaka said.
I do not want to Google you, man. I'm not going to do it.
But no, I'm on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm all over the place. So reach out to me if you have any questions, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Excellent. And Tim, we all kind of know where to find you, but this is weird being on this side of the desk with you on a podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
This is the second time in a month I've done this.
Really?
I was on Dawn and Kelly's.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. That was fun too.
Well, they're better hosts than I am. So.
Well, they are. They're much better. But
thanks,
the website, actually the website that Matt made, AVNation.tv. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's TD Tim David Albright. But at this point, I'm still crying that the Blues are out of the hockey playoffs. So.
Yeah, your Twitter feed's not very exciting right now.
Oh, and I'll be at Infocom next week. So there you go.
Yeah, and so will I. So you can find me at pretty much anywhere at Matt D. Scott, definitely on Twitter and Instagram and all the other fun stuff. You will also find me at Infocom next week. We have a very, very busy schedule slated for that show. So if any of the Resi guys are moonlighting in commercial or vice versa, definitely come check out the show, check out our booth. What's our booth number again, Tim?
And is it 2821?
Yes, N2821. We've got some really, really cool stuff going on in that booth, as well as live versions of many of our shows. But for more episodes of this show, please check out avnation.tv, and you can follow AVNation on Twitter at AVNationTV as well. For all of us here at ResiWeek, have a good week.